You've poured your heart into something. Maybe it's a painting, a drawing, a poem, or a video. You've labored over every brushstroke, every edit. You've danced between self-doubt and inspiration, and finally, after all of that courage, you share it, you hold your breath, and then in a sea of kind words, there it is. The comment. The one that says, meh, or this is awful, or this sucks, or worse. And suddenly, all the supportive comments disappear. You're staring at that one harsh message, and your brain latches onto it like it's gospel. You feel exposed, maybe even a little foolish, and your creative flame, once bright and burning, dims just a little. I've been there. And if you're watching this, then maybe you have too. But here's the thing no one tells you when you're just starting out. That one comment, yes, even the rude, flippant one, might just be a gift. A strange, unexpected, slightly crumbled gift in scratchy wrapping paper. Because today, we're not here to talk about how to avoid negative comments. That's impossible. We're not even here to talk about how to fight back. That's not your energy. We're here to talk about how to alchemize them, how to turn them into insight, connections, self-awareness, and even creative fuel. This is a Creator's Guidebook episode about compassion, boundaries, strength, and power. It's about how to meet critique, both kind and cruel, with grace, curiosity, and the kind of confidence that doesn't have to scream to be felt. If you've ever felt crushed by a careless comment, or if you've wondered if it was even worth showing up again after someone made you doubt your voice, I want to gently pull you aside, pour you a cup of tea, and remind you that you are not fragile. You are just growing, and sometimes the things that hurt us the most are just invitations to grow stronger roots. Let's walk through it together. There's a quiet truth every creative person eventually runs into. Not everything that feels personal is personal. When someone leaves a negative comment on your post, especially one that seems unnecessarily mean, your first reaction might be to wonder, did I do something wrong? Is my work actually terrible? Am I not cut out for this? But here's a reframe that changes everything. Most of the time, negative comments are more about the person leaving them than they are about you. Think about it. A random person online doesn't know the full story behind your art. They don't know how many hours you spent on that drawing. They didn't see you battling through imposter syndrome or pushing through self-doubt just to hit publish. They just saw a moment, a single snapshot, and decided to project something onto it. That projection could come from their own insecurities, a bad day they haven't processed, frustration that they're not creating like you are, or just the fact that they didn't think you'd see their comment. And the internet makes it easier to forget that we're all human beings. It turns nuance into noise, and vulnerability into something that feels like a target. But you don't have to internalize that. In fact, one of the most powerful things you can learn as a creative is how to build an emotional filter. A soft but steady sieve that catches what's valuable and lets the rest fall through. You don't need to armor up or become numb. You just need to remember, your worth doesn't hinge on someone else's opinion of a single piece of your work. Even you aren't the final version of yourself yet. You're still growing, still changing. So when someone critiques the current page, they're not seeing the whole book. And they are definitely not writing your ending. Let's talk about what happens when you don't take a negative comment personally and instead respond with curiosity. Let's say someone leaves this on your post. This is ugly. I don't get why anyone would like this. Now your brain might instantly go into fight or flight mode. You might want to delete it or argue or spiral into self-doubt. But here's the thing. When you ask a question instead of reacting, you shift the energy of the conversation completely. You respond with something like, that's totally valid. What part of it feels off to you? Or, interesting. I'd love to hear what you think would make it stronger. You're not being snarky or defensive. You're modeling openness. And sometimes, that tiny moment of openness, it catches people off guard in the best way. They might reply, oh, I didn't expect you to answer. Or, I just think the colors clash a bit. Or even, "Sorry, I was just in a bad mood." I've seen people go from literally trolls to fans because the creator chose connection over conflict. They feel heard, and suddenly they remember you're a human being, and they're a human being too. The veil lifts. That's the magic of curiosity. It disarms the negativity without feeding it. But here's what's even more powerful. When you ask these questions publicly, your other viewers will see how you respond to criticism. And they think, wow, this person's the real deal. They don't crumble under pressure. They care. They want to grow. That right there builds trust. And trust is everything when you're building a creative career. So next time someone throws a harsh opinion your way, pause, ask, and watch how something bitter can actually turn into something sweet. Or at least something we can use. Let's get honest for a second. Most of us want feedback, but sugar-coated, wrapped up in compliments, served with a side of reassurance. And hey, I get it. That kind of feedback feels safe, encouraging even, kind of like a warm cup of coffee. But growth, real growth, that usually comes from messier places. And sometimes the most valuable feedback you'll ever get is hidden inside a comment that makes you wince. Let's look at an example. Imagine someone writes, "This looks amateur, the proportions are off, and the background is lazy." Okay, ouch. But what if instead of shutting down, you ask, "Thanks for your honesty. What about the proportions feels off to you?" And suddenly, you're not just hurt, you're learning. Maybe they point out something your eyes missed. Maybe, just maybe, they're rude and right. And if they're wrong, you still gain clarity on why you made your creative choices, which deepens your artistic voice. The key is to separate tone from content. You can ignore the meanness and still ask yourself, is there a helpful critique hidden in there? What would I tell a friend if they received this comment? Can I use this as fuel for refinement instead of fuel for doubt? It's like panning for gold. Most of it will be mud, but there still might be a glimmer worth keeping. The truth is, the creative process is full of blind spots. As artists, we're often too close to our work to even see how we can grow. So when someone, even rudely, points something out, that's actually a gift in disguise. It's a free workshop, a free class. It's a real-time insight on how people are experiencing your work. And that's invaluable. It helps you build stronger instincts, sharper eyes, thicker skin, not in a hardened, jaded way, but in a rooted, self-aware way. A way that says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to learn. And sometimes, these lessons build creative breakthroughs. You'll tweak your next painting, refine your camera angle, reword your caption, and your work will get better. Not in spite of the comment, but because of it. It's not about pleasing everyone, it's about evolving without losing yourself. Here's something kind of ironic. Negative comments might sting, but they're also helping you. Algorithmically and relationally. Let's talk strategy for a second. Social media platforms don't know whether someone's commenting because they love you or because they don't. They just see engagement. So when someone leaves a negative comment, you just got a boost. That's right, your engagement rate just went up. And if you respond, even higher. It's like compost. Something unpleasant turning into something nourishing for your growth. When you answer with compassion, humor, or curiosity, your audience sees it. They notice your self-respect and resilience. They notice how grounded you are. And that builds connections far deeper than your latest creation. That reply doesn't just disarm the commenter. It shows your community you're not afraid of feedback. It makes them trust you more. It models bravery. And sometimes, those thoughtful responses are exactly what turns a hateful comment into a champion. It becomes less about attacking and more about seeing. Every comment is a fork in the road. You can delete it, ignore it, or you can use it to deepen your connection to your work and your people. And when you choose the later, you're not just being strategic, you're being wise. You're growing roots. Here's something I wish more people knew. There's wisdom even in the roughest critiques. if you know how to look for it. Sometimes we throw the whole thing out because it was in a harsh tone, because someone said it was an eye-rolling emoji. Or maybe they came in swinging with the gentleness of a wrecking ball. But tone and truth are not the same thing. That comment might still carry a nugget of insight, which could make your work stronger. Let's say someone comments, "This perspective is so off. Do you even understand anatomy?" Underneath the hostility, they're actually giving you a gift, a pointer towards a skill you can sharpen. Try asking yourself, do they have a point? What could I do differently next time? Would revisiting this skill help me feel more confident? You don't have to agree with the critique. You don't have to change your art just to please someone else. But if you can pull something valuable from it, why not? At the end of the day, your creative energy is sacred. It's where your ideas live, your voice, your vision. And that energy sometimes is not infinite. So the real question becomes, where do you want to invest it? In chasing every unkind comment? Or trying to convince strangers to like you? Or in deepening the relationship between you and your work and the people who already see you? Truth is, you don't have to defend yourself against every negative comment. Sometimes silence is the highest form of self-trust. Sometimes your peace is worth more than proving a point. Every time you choose not to spiral into every time you choose not to spiral into defensiveness, every time you return to your sketchbook or your lens or your script, you regain your power. You're saying, this matters more. This is what I'm building. This is where my energy belongs. You get to choose what sharpens you. You get to choose what you carry forward. Not every comment deserves a seat at your creative table. But every moment can be a teacher, if you let it be. Let your work stay the loudest thing in the room. And let your heart stay soft, but rooted. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to become. So next time a negative comment appears, I want you to pause before you delete it or spiral into self-doubt, because not every criticism is worthless. Not every mean comment is about you. Some of them are echoes of someone else's fears. Some of them are poorly worded opportunities to improve. And some of them, they're just noise. But noise can still teach you how to focus. Here's a secret. The more you grow, the more comments like this you'll get. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something real. You're creating. You're standing out. You're becoming visible. And visibility always comes with friction. But friction is how we make fire. And you, my dear, are here to burn bright. So when someone tosses a spark your way, you get to choose. Will this burn me? Or will this light the next step on my path? Every comment, every post, every time you show up, it's not just content. It's a relationship with your audience, with your craft, and with yourself. So offer grace when it's safe to, protect your peace when it's not, and always remember, your creative voice is allowed to evolve. In fact, it must. From me, thank you for being brave enough to share your work with the world. Keep creating, keep questioning, and keep growing. And I'll see you in the next video.